Imagine waking up to a sun that no longer shines, not just for a day or a week, but for well over a year. The sky is perpetually dim, casting a gloomy shadow over everything you know. Crops wither in the fields, temperatures plummet, and hunger gnaws at every household. Birds no longer sing at dawn, and an eerie stillness grips the land. This isn't the plot of a dystopian novel. This is history. This is 536 AD, the year the sun disappeared. A year so catastrophic that historians call it the darkest year in history. But what could plunge the world into such darkness? What unimaginable force blotted out the sun and altered life on Earth? And perhaps most chillingly, how did those who lived through this nightmare manage to survive when the very essence of life, sunlight, vanished before their eyes? The answers lie buried in the ashes of colossal volcanic eruptions, whispered in the chronicles of ancient historians, and uncovered through the meticulous investigations of modern scientists. As we journey through the harrowing events of 536 AD, we will unravel the sequence of disasters that followed, the crop failures that led to mass starvation, the plagues that decimated populations, and the societal collapses that reshaped entire civilizations. This year wasn't just a footnote in history. It was a turning point that left scars on humanity for generations to come. Imagine the despair of farmers watching their livelihoods vanish, the fear of rulers unable to protect their people, and the whispers of apocalyptic prophecies echoing through villages. The skies were described as a faint shadow of their former selves, and the chill that swept the world was more than just physical. It was psychological. A creeping dread that this endless night might never lift. Join me as we delve into the untold stories, the forgotten voices, and the chilling details of the year the world went dark. From the volcanic eruptions that spewed ash into the stratosphere to the desperate struggles of empires on the brink, every moment of this historical catastrophe will be laid bare. What caused this unprecedented darkness? How did the people of the time cope with the endless night? And most importantly, could such a cataclysmic event happen again in our modern world? Brace yourself, because the story of 536 AD is not just a tale from the past. It's a haunting reminder of how fragile our existence truly is. For centuries, the mysterious darkness of 536 AD puzzled historians and scholars alike. Ancient accounts spoke of a sun that barely shone, a year without warmth, and widespread famine. But the true cause of this catastrophe remained elusive. It wasn't until modern scientific advancements that a compelling answer emerged: volcanic eruptions of staggering magnitude. Researchers have now linked the darkened skies and sudden climate shift to volcanic activity, possibly from Iceland or Central America, specifically El Salvador. The theory is supported by layers of volcanic ash found in ice cores extracted from Greenland and Antarctica, each layer preserving a chronological record of the Earth's atmosphere. In these frozen time capsules, scientists discovered a distinct sulfuric acid spike dating precisely to 535 to 536 AD, indicating a massive volcanic eruption that spewed vast amounts of ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. This volcanic veil blocked sunlight, leading to a dramatic drop in global temperatures, a phenomenon known as volcanic winter. The eruption was so intense that its impact wasn't localized. Instead, it created a global catastrophe. Crops failed across continents due to shortened growing seasons and unseasonal frosts. In China, historical records described summer snow and widespread crop failures. In Ireland, the Annals of Ulster recorded a failure of bread from 536 to 539 AD, highlighting prolonged agricultural distress. The environmental domino effect was devastating. Livestock perished, rivers froze, and human communities faced starvation. Modern satellite technology and climate models have helped reconstruct the scale of this eruption, suggesting that volcanic ash and gas were propelled so high into the atmosphere that they formed a worldwide haze, reflecting sunlight away from the Earth's surface. This cooling effect was not only immediate, but prolonged, as volcanic particles lingered for over a year. The eruption in Iceland, possibly from the Elgia fissure, or the Tierra Blanca Joven eruption in El Salvador's Ilopango caldera, are leading candidates for this global disaster. Both eruptions were capable of ejecting hundreds of cubic kilometers of volcanic material, covering the sky in a dense, sun-obscuring cloud. The climatic aftermath was catastrophic. Global temperatures are estimated to have dropped by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, a shift that may seem small but had enormous consequences for agricultural societies dependent on precise seasonal patterns. Imagine entire regions plunged into a perpetual twilight, where midday felt like dusk and night felt endless. The sudden cold snap shortened growing seasons, leading to failed harvests and subsequent food shortages. This environmental stress didn't just affect crops, it disrupted entire ecosystems. Rivers that usually thawed in spring remained frozen, migratory patterns of birds and animals were thrown off course, and the human population, reliant on predictable cycles of nature, was left vulnerable. The connection between volcanic eruptions and climate change might seem obvious now, but in 536 AD, people had no such understanding. To them, the darkened skies were ominous signs of divine wrath, celestial punishment, or apocalyptic prophecy. It is only through modern geological and climatological studies that we understand the true scale and impact of this volcanic event. The analysis of tree rings from this period, known as dendrochronology, also supports the volcanic theory. Trees from Scandinavia to North America show significantly reduced growth rings around 536 AD, indicating a sudden and severe drop in temperatures. This evidence, combined with historical records and ice core data, paints a clear picture. A massive volcanic eruption, or possibly a series of eruptions, triggered one of the most severe climate anomalies in recorded history. The volcanic winter of 536 AD serves as a stark reminder of nature's power to disrupt human civilization. The immediate aftermath saw entire populations struggling to survive in a world that no longer adhered to familiar patterns. In some regions, the failure of crops led to mass migrations as people searched for more hospitable lands. In others, social structures crumbled under the weight of starvation and disease. The Byzantine historian Procopius, an eyewitness to these events, described the sun as giving forth its light without brightness, resembling the moon during the whole year. His account, once dismissed as hyperbole, now finds validation in scientific evidence. Further research into volcanic activity of this period reveals the possibility of a volcanic double event, where multiple eruptions occurred within a short span, amplifying the environmental impact. Recent studies have even explored the chemical composition of the volcanic ash found in ice cores, identifying its unique signature that matches Icelandic volcanoes. Additionally, the location of these eruptions played a crucial role. Volcanoes in the northern hemisphere have a more pronounced effect on global climate due to atmospheric circulation patterns. The volcanic clues from 536 AD have not only solved a historical mystery, but have also highlighted the interconnectedness of natural disasters and human history. The knowledge gained from studying this ancient catastrophe has informed our understanding of modern volcanic eruptions and their potential global impacts. Today, volcanic monitoring systems and climate models aim to predict and mitigate such disasters, but the events of 536 AD remind us of the unpredictability and sheer force of nature. The plummeting temperatures and dying crops of that year were not merely historical footnotes. They were life-altering events that reshaped societies, economies, and cultures. As we continue to study the volcanic clues from 536 AD, we are reminded that our world remains vulnerable to the same forces that once plunged it into darkness. The lessons learned from this ancient catastrophe underscore the importance of preparedness and resilience in the face of natural disasters. The volcanic eruptions that darkened the skies in 536 AD serve as a powerful testament to the enduring impact of nature on human history, a chilling reminder that even the brightest of days can be obscured by the shadow of a single volcanic eruption. The environmental turmoil left behind echoes through history, and the clues preserved in ice, rock, and tree rings continue to reveal the full story of 536 AD's volcanic winter, ensuring that this dark chapter is never forgotten. Modern research continues to unravel new aspects of this ancient disaster, from exploring its influence on subsequent historical events to drawing parallels with potential future volcanic threats. The story of 536 AD's volcanic winter is not just a relic of the past, but a vital lesson for the future, reminding us that beneath our feet lies a force capable of changing the world in an instant. The year 536 AD marked the beginning of an unparalleled global crisis, as volcanic winters swept across continents, plunging Europe, the Middle East, and Asia into widespread famine. The sudden and prolonged drop in temperatures devastated agriculture, the backbone of societies in the ancient world. Fields that once yielded abundant harvests now lay barren under an unrelenting cold. In Europe, historical records speak of dwindling food supplies, with grain shortages causing prices to skyrocket. The collapse of crop yields led to starvation among peasants and nobility alike. In Constantinople, then the heart of the Byzantine Empire, food scarcity spurred unrest as citizens faced empty markets and dwindling rations. Across the Middle East, where agriculture relied heavily on predictable weather patterns, the abrupt shift in climate wreaked havoc. The Sasanian Empire, already grappling with political strife, found its agricultural economy severely undermined, further destabilizing the region. Asia, too, felt the sting of nature's wrath. In China, the Northern Wei dynasty struggled to maintain order as harvest failures led to widespread hunger. The Wei chronicles describe villages abandoned as families fled in search of food, and rivers clogged with the bodies of those who succumbed to starvation. The severity of the famine triggered a domino effect, leading to societal collapses and mass migrations. Across Europe, entire communities abandoned their homes, seeking refuge in more hospitable regions. This movement of people not only strained resources in already struggling areas, but also sowed seeds of conflict as desperate migrants clashed with local populations. The famine's grip extended to the Middle East, where once thriving cities saw their populations dwindle as people migrated towards urban centers in hopes of finding sustenance. In India, the volcanic winter has been linked by some historians to the decline of the Gupta Empire, once a beacon of prosperity and cultural brilliance. The Gupta administration, already weakened by internal dissent and external threats, faced insurmountable challenges as agricultural production plummeted. With food shortages came economic instability, reducing the empire's ability to maintain its military and administrative infrastructure. The resulting vulnerability made it easier for invading forces to dismantle what was left of Gupta rule. This theory is supported by archaeological evidence showing a sharp decline in urban settlements and trade activity during this period. The impact of famine wasn't merely physical, but psychological as well. Societies steeped in religious and spiritual beliefs often interpreted the volcanic winter and resulting famine as divine retribution. In Europe, the Christian Church saw a surge in influence as desperate populations turned to faith for solace. Processions, mass prayers, and religious rituals became commonplace as people sought to appease what they believed to be an angry god. Similarly, in the Middle East, Zoroastrian priests in the Sasanian Empire conducted elaborate ceremonies to invoke divine favor. In China, Buddhist monks organized food distribution where possible, reinforcing the importance of compassion in times of crisis. The volcanic winter also reshaped geopolitical landscapes. As famine spread, empires and kingdoms faced increased pressure both internally and externally. In the Byzantine Empire, Emperor Justinian found his ambitions for territorial expansion thwarted as resources were diverted to feeding the population. The Sasanian Empire, weakened by food shortages, became more vulnerable to external invasions. The ripple effects of this climatic catastrophe were felt far and wide, altering the course of history in profound ways. The societal collapse triggered by food shortages is evident in the abandonment of rural settlements and the rise of fortified cities. People, desperate to protect whatever resources they had, flocked to urban centers that offered better security. This sudden urbanization placed immense strain on city infrastructures, leading to overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and the spread of diseases. In many ways, the volcanic winter of 536 AD set the stage for subsequent plagues that would ravage populations. The psychological toll of famine cannot be overstated. In a time when scientific understanding of natural phenomena was rudimentary at best, the sudden disappearance of the sun and subsequent crop failures were terrifying. Folklore from this period is replete with tales of celestial omens, divine wrath, and apocalyptic predictions. Communities sought explanations in the supernatural, leading to the persecution of perceived witches or sorcerers, believed to have angered the gods. The famine also altered dietary habits as people turned to unconventional food sources. Accounts from the period mention consumption of tree bark, roots, and even insects as desperate populations tried to stave off hunger. The scarcity of food also led to an increase in crime, with thefts and raids becoming common as people fought for survival. The social fabric of many regions was irrevocably altered as trust eroded and survival instincts took precedence. Migration patterns during this period reshaped demographics. In Europe, the movement of Germanic tribes, already in flux after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, intensified. Tribes that had settled in certain regions were forced to move again, leading to clashes and the eventual formation of new political entities. In the Middle East, nomadic tribes expanded their territories as settled populations weakened by famine became easy targets. In China, the north-south divide deepened as populations from the famine-stricken north migrated towards the more fertile southern regions, altering the cultural and political landscape. Theories about the volcanic winter contributing to the fall of the Gupta Empire gained further credence when examining economic data from the period. The once thriving trade networks that connected India to the Roman Empire, Southeast Asia, and China saw a significant decline. Ports that bustled with activity became eerily silent as maritime trade dwindled. The economic downturn led to a decline in patronage for the arts and sciences, fields that had flourished under Gupta rule. The loss of agricultural productivity meant that surplus wealth, which funded cultural and scientific endeavors, was no longer available. This period saw a marked decline in the construction of monumental architecture, the production of literature, and advancements in science and mathematics, areas where the Gupta Empire had previously excelled. The linkage between volcanic winter and the Gupta Empire's decline is further strengthened by climatological studies that show significant temperature drops in the Indian subcontinent during this period. The cooling would have shortened growing seasons, reduced agricultural output, and led to food shortages that the administrative machinery of the Gupta Empire was ill-equipped to handle. The fall of the Gupta Empire had lasting repercussions for the Indian subcontinent, leading to a period of political fragmentation and regionalism that would persist for centuries. The famine of 536 AD serves as a stark reminder of how interconnected human societies are with their environment. A single volcanic eruption, thousands of miles away, set off a chain of events that reshaped civilizations across 3 continents. The societal collapse and migrations triggered by food shortages underscore the fragility of human settlements in the face of environmental catastrophes. The theories about the volcanic winter's role in the fall of the Gupta Empire highlight the profound impact climate can have on political stability. As we study the worldwide impact of the volcanic winter of 536 AD, we are reminded that our modern world, with all its technological advancements, is not immune to such natural disasters. The lessons learned from this period emphasize the importance of resilience, preparedness, and global cooperation in mitigating the effects of future climatic catastrophes. Furthermore, modern climatologists often reference the events of 536 AD as a case study when analyzing the potential effects of contemporary volcanic eruptions. The migration crises witnessed during this time mirror those seen in later centuries during similar climate-induced famines. In the context of the Gupta Empire, it is essential to consider how environmental factors exacerbated existing political and economic vulnerabilities. The resilience of communities during this time, despite overwhelming adversity, serves as a testament to human adaptability and resourcefulness. Even in the darkest times, societies sought to preserve knowledge, culture, and traditions, albeit in diminished capacities. Historians argue that the lessons from 536 AD remain relevant today, particularly as we face modern challenges such as climate change, food security, and forced migrations due to environmental disasters. The widespread famine, societal collapse, and migrations of 536 AD illustrate the delicate balance between human civilization and the natural world. The theories surrounding the fall of the Gupta Empire highlight the complex interplay between environment, economy, and governance, offering valuable insights for contemporary policymakers. As we reflect on the global impact of the volcanic winter, it becomes clear that history's darkest year still holds lessons for our future. The outbreak of the bubonic plague in 541 AD stands as one of the most devastating pandemics in history, emerging as a direct consequence of the weakened populations left in the wake of the volcanic winter of 536 AD. As the world grappled with famine, malnutrition, and social collapse, the conditions were ripe for a catastrophic disease to spread. The plague, named after Emperor Justinian, who ruled the Byzantine Empire at the time, would go on to ravage Constantinople and beyond, leaving death, economic devastation, and a crumbling empire in its wake. The plague's origins are believed to lie in the East African region, carried by infected fleas that thrived on black rats, which were common stowaways on grain ships traversing the trade routes of the Mediterranean. Constantinople, a bustling hub of commerce and culture, became ground zero as these infected rodents infiltrated the city's granaries, homes, and streets. What began as isolated cases quickly escalated into a full-blown epidemic. The symptoms were gruesome and unmistakable: sudden high fevers, chills, and muscle pains, followed by the appearance of painful, swollen lymph nodes known as buboes, often turning black and oozing pus. Victims endured excruciating pain before succumbing, often within days. As the plague spread, the death toll skyrocketed. Historical accounts estimate that at its peak, the plague of Justinian claimed up to 5,000 lives per day in Constantinople alone. The city's streets were littered with corpses, overwhelming burial grounds, and forcing authorities to dispose of bodies in mass graves or even by throwing them into the sea. The economic impact was devastating. With a significant portion of the population dead or incapacitated, labor shortages crippled agriculture, trade, and industry. The Byzantine economy, already strained by the volcanic winter's aftermath, now faced a full-blown crisis. Trade routes were disrupted as fear of contagion led to isolation and abandonment of ports. The tax base shrank drastically, impairing the empire's ability to fund its military campaigns and administrative functions. Emperor Justinian himself contracted the plague, but miraculously survived, though his reign was forever marked by the pandemic. The social fabric of the empire unraveled, as entire families were wiped out, leaving behind orphans and abandoned properties. Grief and fear permeated every corner of society, leading to widespread despair and social unrest. The plague's spread wasn't confined to Constantinople. As trade routes extended across Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa, so did the disease. Egypt, then the breadbasket of the Byzantine Empire, suffered massive population losses, crippling grain supplies to the empire's heartland. In Italy, the plague decimated urban centers already weakened by war and famine. The economic devastation was profound. Farmlands lay fallow with no laborers to till them, and workshops stood silent without craftsmen. The Byzantine military, once a formidable force, found itself understaffed and vulnerable. Border defenses weakened, allowing enemies like the Persians and Slavs to encroach upon Byzantine territories with little resistance. The plague also had psychological effects that further destabilized the empire. People lived in constant fear, avoiding social gatherings and public spaces. Superstition flourished as many believed the plague was divine punishment for their sins. Religious leaders held mass prayers and processions, hoping to appease an angry god. Some communities resorted to scapegoating, accusing minorities and outsiders of causing the plague, leading to persecution and violence. Despite its devastation, the plague of Justinian did not vanish quickly. It persisted in waves over the next 2 centuries, repeatedly crippling the Byzantine Empire and its neighbors. Each recurrence brought renewed death and economic hardship, preventing recovery and progress. The Byzantine Empire's dreams of reconquering lost Western Roman territories were dashed as resources were diverted to plague management and survival. Constantinople's vibrant marketplaces, once teeming with merchants and goods from across the known world, turned into eerily quiet spaces. Ships avoided the city's harbors, and caravans bypassed its roads. The plague's impact on trade was catastrophic, severing the economic lifelines that had sustained the empire's wealth and influence. The death toll is estimated to have reached between 25 to 50 million people, roughly 25% to 60% of Europe's population at the time. The gruesome details of the plague's spread are harrowing. Historical records describe entire households dying within days, with no one left to bury the dead. Survivors often faced the grim task of burning their own family's corpses to prevent further spread. In some areas, the living were forced to share homes with the dead due to lack of space and resources. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, and the silence of empty streets was broken only by the wails of the grieving and the moans of the dying. The plague of Justinian laid bare the fragility of human civilization in the face of nature's wrath. It exposed the vulnerabilities of interconnected trade networks, urbanization, and social structures. Yet it also showcased human resilience. Amid the despair, efforts were made to care for the sick, bury the dead, and rebuild what was lost. The plague's legacy is complex. It contributed significantly to the weakening of the Byzantine Empire, altering the course of European history. With a diminished population and strained resources, the empire's influence waned, giving rise to new powers and altering the geopolitical landscape. Modern historians and epidemiologists study the plague of Justinian not just as a historical event, but as an early example of pandemic dynamics. The rapid spread through trade routes, the impact on urban centers, and the societal responses offer valuable lessons for managing modern pandemics. The parallels with the Black Death of the 14th century and even contemporary outbreaks like COVID-19 are striking. The plague of Justinian remains a chilling reminder of how swiftly and mercilessly disease can dismantle empires and alter history's trajectory. What made the plague even more terrifying was its unpredictable nature. One moment, a bustling market square would be full of life. The next, it would be eerily deserted as bodies piled up. Physicians of the time, with their limited knowledge, resorted to rudimentary and often futile treatments, including bloodletting, herbal remedies, and prayers. The medical community was overwhelmed and helpless. The pandemic also disrupted education and intellectual life. Schools and universities closed, scholars perished, and the transmission of knowledge was severely hampered. Art and culture suffered, with fewer patrons and artists left to contribute to the empire's rich cultural tapestry. The economic devastation reached beyond agriculture and trade. Banking systems collapsed, and coinage was debased to cope with the economic strain. Villages and towns were abandoned, and entire regions were depopulated. The once thriving urban centers became ghost towns. The impact on daily life was profound. People avoided physical contact, social gatherings were canceled, and religious pilgrimages halted. The plague even altered architectural practices, with increased emphasis on sanitation and isolation in urban planning. The psychological trauma endured by survivors was immense. The constant exposure to death and loss left many in a state of perpetual grief and anxiety. Children orphaned by the plague grew up in a world drastically altered, with fewer opportunities and a deep-seated fear of disease. The societal changes triggered by the plague of Justinian were profound and lasting. Feudalism gained ground as centralized authority weakened. Landowners, desperate for labor, granted more rights to peasants, laying the groundwork for socio-economic shifts in medieval Europe. The pandemic also influenced religious practices. The rise of monasticism can be attributed in part to the plague, as many sought refuge in isolated monasteries. The pandemic forced the Byzantine Empire to rethink its military strategies. With fewer soldiers available, reliance on mercenaries increased, leading to new alliances and conflicts. The plague also highlighted the importance of medical knowledge, prompting early efforts to document symptoms and treatments, which influenced future medical practices. Historians often debate whether the plague of Justinian hastened the decline of the Byzantine Empire, but its impact is undeniable. The empire never fully recovered its former glory. The plague's waves, each as deadly as the last, ensured that recovery was always just out of reach. The legacy of the plague of Justinian is not just one of death and despair, but also of resilience and adaptation. The lessons from this dark chapter in history resonate even today as we navigate modern pandemics, emphasizing the importance of preparedness, scientific research, and global cooperation. The catastrophic events of 536 AD and the subsequent volcanic winter not only devastated populations, but also brought economic and cultural life to a near halt. Trade routes that once buzzed with merchants and goods fell silent as famine, disease, and societal collapse made travel perilous and unsustainable. The once thriving Silk Road, which connected the Byzantine Empire to China, saw dwindling caravans as merchants feared bandit attacks from desperate and starving populations. Maritime trade across the Mediterranean slowed dramatically as ports struggled with food shortages and declining populations. The bustling marketplaces of Constantinople, Alexandria, and Rome, once filled with exotic goods from distant lands, became eerily quiet as ships ceased to arrive. The stalling of trade routes had a domino effect on economic activities across continents. With fewer goods available, inflation surged, and many businesses closed. Artisans, whose crafts depended on imported materials like silk, spices, and precious metals, found themselves out of work. The economic downturn led to widespread poverty, forcing many into subsistence farming or begging. This economic paralysis also meant that large-scale infrastructure projects were abandoned. Roads and aqueducts, essential for trade and daily life, fell into disrepair, further isolating communities and hampering economic recovery. The stagnation extended to the realms of art and architecture. The grand ambitions of emperors and kings to build monumental structures were curtailed by the economic crisis. In Constantinople, construction projects that aimed to rival the grandeur of the Hagia Sophia were postponed indefinitely. In Rome, the remnants of its imperial glory continued to crumble as funds for maintenance dried up. Artistic endeavors suffered equally. The intricate mosaics, frescoes, and sculptures that adorned churches, palaces, and public spaces saw a significant decline in production. Artists struggling to survive abandoned their crafts, leading to a cultural void that would last for decades. The period following 536 AD saw a noticeable shift in artistic themes as well. The earlier classical influences that celebrated human achievement and beauty gave way to more somber and religious themes, reflecting the despair and fear that gripped societies. Depictions of apocalyptic scenes, divine judgment, and martyrdom became prevalent in art, serving as both a reflection of contemporary anxieties and a source of solace for the suffering populace. The architectural stagnation of this period is evident in the scarcity of grand structures built during the late 6th and early 7th centuries. Many buildings that were initiated before the volcanic winter remained incomplete, standing as silent witnesses to the era's economic hardships. This period also saw a decline in technological advancements, as the focus shifted from innovation to mere survival. The long-term cultural shifts that followed the catastrophe were profound. The social fabric of many regions changed irrevocably. The massive population losses led to labor shortages, which in turn altered the feudal structures in Europe. Landowners, desperate for workers to till their fields, offered better conditions and wages to peasants, planting early seeds for the gradual decline of serfdom. In the Byzantine Empire, the economic strain led to the centralization of power as emperors sought to control dwindling resources more tightly. This centralization, however, also paved the way for increased bureaucracy and corruption. Cultural adaptations were evident in religious practices as well. The volcanic winter and subsequent plagues were widely interpreted as divine punishment, leading to a surge in religious fervor. Pilgrimages to holy sites increased, and relics of saints became highly sought after, believed to offer protection against further calamities. This period also witnessed the strengthening of the Christian Church in Europe and the spread of Buddhism in Asia, as people sought spiritual refuge from their worldly sufferings. The cultural shift extended to literature and education. The focus of scholarly works moved from classical philosophy and science to religious texts and moral teachings. Libraries that once housed works of ancient philosophers and scientists saw their collections neglected or destroyed. Monasteries became the primary centers of learning, preserving knowledge through scriptoria, where monks painstakingly copied religious manuscripts. This shift had lasting implications, as the intellectual pursuits of the ancient world were sidelined in favor of theological studies, delaying scientific advancements for centuries. The economic aftermath of 536 AD also reshaped trade networks. With traditional routes disrupted, new ones eventually emerged, albeit slowly. The decline of the Roman and Byzantine influence in certain regions allowed for the rise of new trade powers, such as the Islamic caliphates in the Middle East, which would later establish extensive trade connections stretching from Spain to Southeast Asia. The volcanic winter also led to demographic shifts that influenced cultural landscapes. Entire villages and towns were abandoned, and surviving populations migrated to more fertile and hospitable regions. This migration brought about cultural exchanges but also conflicts, as new settlers clashed with indigenous populations. In the Indian subcontinent, the decline of the Gupta Empire due to the economic strain allowed for the rise of regional kingdoms, each fostering unique cultural identities. The economic hardship also influenced social hierarchies. Wealthy merchants who managed to survive the crisis often gained more influence, while many noble families saw their fortunes diminish. This shift in power dynamics laid the groundwork for the eventual rise of merchant guilds and the middle class in medieval Europe. The artistic stagnation gradually gave way to a renaissance of sorts in the following centuries. The hardships of the volcanic winter and its aftermath inspired new forms of artistic expression that emphasized resilience, hope, and redemption. The construction of new churches and monasteries, often funded by the church and wealthy patrons, became centers for artistic revival. Frescoes depicting scenes from the Book of Revelation, illustrating both the horrors of the apocalypse and the promise of salvation, adorned the walls of these sacred spaces. Architecturally, the period post-536 AD saw the evolution of fortifications. The need for protection against raids, migrations, and natural calamities led to the construction of more robust and strategically located fortresses. These structures laid the foundation for the castles and walled cities that would dominate medieval Europe. The cultural and economic aftermath of 536 AD serves as a testament to human resilience in the face of adversity. While the volcanic winter brought unprecedented challenges, it also set in motion changes that would shape the medieval world. The stalling of trade and economic activities forced societies to adapt, leading to new economic models and trade networks. The artistic and architectural stagnation, though profound, eventually gave way to a cultural renaissance that reflected both the despair of the past and the hope for the future. The long-term cultural shifts and adaptations that emerged from this dark period laid the groundwork for the societies that would flourish in the centuries to come. This period underscores the delicate balance between human civilization and the environment, a lesson that remains relevant as the world grapples with contemporary challenges such as climate change and economic instability. The legacy of 536 AD is not just one of destruction, but also of adaptation, innovation, and cultural evolution, proving that even in the darkest times, humanity finds a way to endure and thrive. Additionally, the cultural aftermath saw the blending of traditions as migratory populations brought new ideas and practices to different regions. Artistic techniques from the East influenced Western styles, while economic hardships spurred innovations in agriculture and trade. Over time, these exchanges enriched cultural tapestries, leading to the emergence of new art forms, architectural styles, and economic systems. The resilience displayed during and after this dark period is a testament to human ingenuity. Communities found ways to adapt to the harsh realities, developing new agricultural practices suited to shorter growing seasons and harsher climates. Trade routes, though initially disrupted, were eventually re-established with greater efficiency, connecting distant regions and fostering economic growth. The cultural and economic aftermath of 536 AD laid the foundation for the medieval period, influencing everything from social structures to artistic expressions. It serves as a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, humanity's capacity for adaptation and innovation prevails, shaping the world for generations to come. The year 536 AD, often referred to as the darkest year in history, has left an indelible mark on human civilization, with its legacy spanning centuries. Historical interpretations of this catastrophic period have evolved significantly, shaped by chronicles of the time and modern scientific inquiry. Early historical records, such as those by Byzantine historian Procopius, vividly describe the eerie darkness that blanketed the skies and the ensuing hardships faced by populations across the known world. Procopius's accounts, once viewed as exaggerated or symbolic, have gained credibility as scientific advancements have corroborated the events he described. For centuries, scholars debated the authenticity of these records, attributing the described phenomena to mythical or religious allegories. However, with the advent of modern scientific techniques, particularly in fields such as climatology, geology, and archaeology, the mysteries of 536 AD have gradually unraveled, painting a picture of global climatic upheaval caused by a massive volcanic eruption. The discovery of volcanic ash layers and ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica provided the first concrete evidence of a significant volcanic event around 535 to 536 AD. Subsequent research pinpointed the likely source of the eruption to Iceland or Central America, with Mount Ilopango in present-day El Salvador emerging as a strong candidate. This volcanic eruption injected vast amounts of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, forming a reflective aerosol layer that drastically reduced sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. The resulting volcanic winter led to plummeting temperatures, widespread crop failures, and famine, triggering a cascade of social, economic, and political disruptions worldwide. The legacy of 536 AD is not merely confined to historical records or scientific data. It has profoundly influenced cultural narratives, art, and literature across different civilizations. In medieval Europe, the hardships of this period found echoes in apocalyptic literature and religious texts, reinforcing beliefs in divine retribution and the transient nature of human existence. The year 536 AD, often referred to as the darkest year in history, has left an indelible mark on human civilization, with its legacy spanning centuries. Historical interpretations of this catastrophic period have evolved significantly, shaped by chronicles of the time and modern scientific inquiry. Early historical records, such as those by Byzantine historian Procopius, vividly describe the eerie darkness that blanketed the skies and the ensuing hardships faced by populations across the known world. Procopius's accounts, once viewed as exaggerated or symbolic, have gained credibility as scientific advancements have corroborated the events he described. For centuries, scholars debated the authenticity of these records, attributing the described phenomena to mythical or religious allegories. However, with the advent of modern scientific techniques, particularly in fields such as climatology, geology, and archaeology, the mysteries of 536 AD have gradually unraveled, painting a picture of global climatic upheaval caused by a massive volcanic eruption. The discovery of volcanic ash layers and ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica provided the first concrete evidence of a significant volcanic event around 535 to 536 AD. Subsequent research pinpointed the likely source of the eruption to Iceland or Central America, with Mount Ilopango in present-day El Salvador emerging as a strong candidate. This volcanic eruption injected vast amounts of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, forming a reflective aerosol layer that drastically reduced sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. The resulting volcanic winter led to plummeting temperatures, widespread crop failures, and famine, triggering a cascade of social, economic, and political disruptions worldwide. The legacy of 536 AD is not merely confined to historical records or scientific data. It has profoundly influenced cultural narratives, art, and literature across different civilizations. In medieval Europe, the hardships of this period found echoes in apocalyptic literature and religious texts, reinforcing beliefs in divine retribution and the transient nature of human existence. Despite the immense hardships faced during this period, human societies demonstrated remarkable resilience, adapting to new realities and finding ways to survive and rebuild. The technological innovations, agricultural adaptations, and social reforms that emerged in the aftermath of 536 AD laid the groundwork for future societal advancements. The development of more efficient agricultural techniques, improved infrastructure, and strengthened social institutions were direct responses to the challenges posed by the volcanic winter. This period also saw the emergence of new trade routes and economic systems as societies sought to overcome resource shortages and economic disruptions. The legacy of 536 AD is a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the capacity for innovation and adaptation in the face of adversity. The lessons learned from this period continue to resonate in contemporary times, as societies around the world confront the challenges of climate change, natural disasters, and environmental degradation. The study of 536 AD not only enriches our understanding of the past, but also equips us with valuable insights for building a sustainable and resilient future. As we navigate the complexities of the modern world, the legacy of 536 AD serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring interplay between humanity and nature, and the importance of preparedness, resilience, and innovation in safeguarding our collective future. The year 536 AD stands as a chilling reminder of how swiftly and profoundly natural events can reshape the course of human history. This darkest year, marked by an ominous, lingering darkness and severe climatic anomalies, triggered widespread famine, societal unrest, and economic turmoil across multiple continents. As we reflect on the catastrophic events that unfolded during this time, the global impact of the volcanic winter becomes undeniable. Crops withered in the fields, rivers froze, and once thriving cities struggled to sustain their populations. The desperation that gripped civilizations from Europe to Asia highlighted the fragile dependence of human societies on stable environmental conditions. The decline of powerful empires, including the Gupta Empire in India, and the weakening of the Byzantine Empire, underscored how environmental calamities can accelerate political and social transformations. The resilience displayed by humanity during this period is equally remarkable. Communities, though battered and broken, found ways to adapt and survive. The crisis spurred technological innovations in agriculture, as farmers sought methods to cope with shorter growing seasons and unpredictable weather patterns. Societal structures were reshaped, with new economic models emerging from the ruins of collapsed systems. The aftermath of 536 AD laid the groundwork for significant historical developments, from the reconfiguration of trade routes to the rise of new political entities. The legacy of this year extends beyond historical records and scientific evidence. It serves as a profound lesson in resilience, adaptation, and the enduring human spirit. The meticulous scientific research that has unveiled the mysteries of 536 AD illustrates the importance of understanding our past to prepare for the future. As modern societies confront the looming threats of climate change, the volcanic winter of 536 AD offers a stark warning. It emphasizes the need for robust disaster preparedness, sustainable environmental practices, and international cooperation in the face of global challenges. The history of 536 AD teaches us that while nature's wrath can be swift and unforgiving, human ingenuity, solidarity, and resilience can pave the way for recovery and progress. As we stand at the crossroads of environmental uncertainty, the legacy of 536 AD is also a testament to the power of collective effort and international cooperation. The recovery from the volcanic winter was not the result of isolated efforts, but rather the cumulative resilience and innovation of countless communities across the globe. This serves as a poignant reminder that addressing contemporary environmental challenges requires a unified global response. Whether it is reducing carbon emissions, protecting biodiversity, or mitigating the impact of natural disasters, collective action is essential. Furthermore, the study of 536 AD has enriched our understanding of the delicate balance between human civilization and the natural world. It has highlighted the profound impact that environmental changes can have on social, economic, and political structures. This understanding is crucial as we navigate the complexities of the modern world, where environmental challenges are becoming increasingly pressing. The volcanic winter of 536 AD stands as a historical case study that underscores the importance of environmental stewardship, sustainability, and resilience. In conclusion, the year 536 AD serves as both a warning and an inspiration. It reminds us of the catastrophic consequences of environmental disruptions and the profound resilience of the human spirit. As we confront modern challenges such as climate change, resource depletion, and environmental degradation, the lessons from 536 AD guide us in building a more resilient, sustainable, and cooperative world. This darkest year in history not only illuminates the past, but also lights the way forward, demonstrating that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, humanity's capacity for innovation, adaptation, and resilience can prevail. As we continue to learn from the past, let us also strive to ensure that future generations inherit a world where resilience, preparedness, and sustainability are not just ideals, but realities. The legacy of 536 AD is a testament to the enduring strength of humanity and a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope.